took place at the Helsinki summit. Why was it a good idea for our president to have a 2-hour closed-door meeting without anyone there to take notes? My concern is that before President Trump met with President Putin and afterwards, he was briefed by his Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, Secretary of Defense, not to give an inch in terms of conceding the idea that maybe Russia did not interfere in our 2016 election, given that our entire intelligence community unanimously continues to confirm that Russia attacked the United States by inserting themselves into our last election. The president's press conference right after the summit, where he seemed to waver, seemed to be weak on this point, was gravely concerning to President Trump's own senior leaders, his Director of National Intelligence. The other thing, Peter, I want to make sure we talk about is North Korea. What was accomplished in that Singapore one-day meeting with Kim Jong-un? Has there been any progress towards the pledges they made? And what sort of harms have we suffered, our allies suffered, by unilaterally giving up valuable military exercises with South Korea and Japan?
In terms of the Helsinki summit, do you have concerns that even Mike Pompeo might not have all the details because he was not behind those closed doors himself during that 2-hour period?
That's right, Peter. One of the predictable challenges is that Russia has now on several occasions said that President Trump made certain commitments, about the nuclear agreements we have, INF and Next Start, made commitments or had conversations about our troops and where they're serving, explored a conversation about potentially exposing Americans and American diplomats to interrogation by the Russians. Because there was no one present other than President Trump and his translator, the State Department in particular, but also the Department of Defense, have had to scramble to be able to respond to these suggestions by the Russians because the Secretaries of Defense and State don't know what was discussed and didn't get a thorough debriefing right after the summit.
Senator, you spoke just before, or just as really the summit was getting underway, about the nature of Vladimir Putin. I remember a couple of the words you used were agile and aggressive. We know, too, that there was an invite that's been put out since the summit for him to come here. Can you see any scenario in which there would be Vladimir Putin addressing a joint session of Congress here?
Absolutely not. President Putin is one of the most aggressive adversaries of the United States. And I think the good news is that on a bipartisan basis, Speaker Ryan in the House, several leaders in the Senate have been clear-eyed in saying that Putin attacked the United States in our 2016 election, invaded and occupied its neighboring country, Ukraine. The United States and Russia signed an agreement that Ukraine's borders would be respected, which Russia has blatantly violated, and they continue to support the murderous regime of Bashar al-Assad in Syria, which has massacred hundreds of thousands of its own citizens. Why we would let someone who has so blatantly violated democracy and human rights, has disrespect for the values the United States has long stood for, why we would give him the privilege of the opportunity to speak to a joint session of Congress until President Putin acknowledges their actions against the United States and takes action to address it, I can't imagine.
No crafty way to segue into this, but I want to mention it because it's a local event. Drug Take Back Day, what can you tell us about that?
One of the ways that American families are suffering through this opioid crisis is through prescription medication that well-meaning family members, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, leave in their medicine cabinets not realizing that they may have another family member who's struggling with opioid addiction. One of the things that makes it easier for us to restrict access to prescription opioids is for folks who are listening to go through their medicine cabinets and get rid of old or unused or unneeded opioids. So if you happen to have a hip replacement or a knee replacement, a back surgery, and you've got a prescription, let's say for Percocet, and you didn't use it all, please make sure you get rid of it. You can't just throw these things down the sink, then it ends up in our water supply. You shouldn't just throw them in the trash. You should take them to a Walgreens. They have a whole series of kiosks in Walgreens throughout our area where you can safely dispose of them. This is a small but very real and important thing that we can do to try and address the many ways in which Delawareans are suffering from the opioid epidemic. 345 people died in Delaware last year of overdoses. That's up 12% from the year before. We're doing everything we can. Federally, we're beginning to deliver significant resources for treatment, for intervention, for law enforcement. But I think this is a great public-private partnership, and I appreciate that Walgreens has stepped up to make sure that they have installed more of these. They have 600 safe medication disposal kiosks in 45 states, and I'm grateful they're adding one more to our state of Delaware.
Well, Senator, we will watch and listen for you on Wednesday.
Great. Thank you very much.